guys.
Yeah, aloha, flow riders. Hey, I see DJ Strick is in the building. Okay,
Whoop, whoop.
listen, we're gonna get started real quick. You know what it is. You know all of the cool things. Make sure you're properly followed. I think it's weird that they changed the word from subscribe to follow, but
We'll
I
just
understand
say all of it. Subscribe, follow,
follow,
tell your friends.
twirl around in circles, do the Humpty dance, like everything.
Give us some love.
All right, so we're going to get into our guest because I know it's something that you guys want to see. Just remember, if you have a question, please throw the cue in the front because it's going to be, challenging to find your questions while we are paying attention to our guest. Our guest is a dear friend of mine, and she is extremely spicy, but we wouldn't be friends if not. You know what it is. She's absolutely the best. I love her to death, so I can't wait to let you guys see. And I pregame today. I wore the shirt, so you know what it is. All right, Kate. I'm gonna do the countdown real quick, and then I'll say hi, and then you can introduce the wonderful 2Ls. Okay, LL Cool J.
Wait. No, you get to introduce her. This is. Yeah, don't be passing this off onto me. You have all the kind words.
I wanted you to be excitement. Okay, here we go. We're gonna breathe it out. Everybody, do your woosah real quick. And 5, 4. Aloha, Flow Riders, and welcome to another edition of The Flow. I am your host, Doc Rock, along with my awesome co-host.
Hey, everyone, it's Katie.
I love that so much better than the old school. It's Katie Fawkes.
It's Katie Fawkes. Depends on the day. Depends on the day.
Man,
today
listen,
I'm just Katie.
we are back from our awesome show, our remote show in the middle of the pool deck, and now we get to have some fun. So I'm super excited about today. We brought along one of my favorite peoples in the world, and I really wish that you guys get to be at one of the podcasting conferences someday and meet our guest. She's absolute riot. She's the absolute best. And yeah, we just love her. So we're gonna go straight to it. We have really, really awesome stuff for you today. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, make sure you're following the show. And we have our show on Podpage. Thanks to Katie. Katie built it all by her handsome self.
I did.
And it is flow.ecamm.com. And you got to go check out our site. I really love their site. And I love the fact that we got more people sending us things on the feedback action, which is so cool. And if you want to know more about Podpage, check out last week's show.
Yep.
I think I said all the cool stuff.
Without further ado, let's welcome Lisa.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lisa Laporte.
Thank you. Doc, I don't think I've ever been called spicy before, but I really love that intro. So it's great to be here.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Well, at least on a show, I've never been called spicy. So kind of a fun introduction. So I appreciate that. It's great to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lisa is the CEO at Twit, and she runs things. She keeps my friend Leo in check, which to me is just makes her a superhero because he's out there. That's my homie. So
creative people are hard to wrangle. So the fact that you're wrangling creative people,
what are you saying? What are you saying?
I don't really wrangle him. What I do is enhance him. It's not really a wrangling for me because I'm creative in my own right, and I've been running businesses my entire career. So I let him be talent, and he's the king of content, and I'm the queen of running the business. So it balances out. So wrangling him is almost impossible.
I for one am thrilled that you're here because I feel like the questions around money are a huge deal for podcasters. So it's like, how do I advertise? Where do I advertise? Should I allow ads on my podcast? What's a podcast network? All of these different questions are constant and probably will continue to be constant as people are getting into podcasting or trying to take it up a level. So Lisa has like the most experience I have ever seen. We were joking.
Well, I've been around the block
started.
for a little bit.
Yeah, you used to have to describe what a podcast was. So you're back you started back in the day where it was an explanation before anything else.
Absolutely. I started with Twit 15 years ago, over 15 years ago. And I've been overseeing the sales process now for a decade. And the only reason I stepped into the sales process at our company is I didn't like how it was being handled. I mean, I've come from a background of growing companies, startups. I'm really formally a corporate controller, CFO. So I came from a financial side of things, but then I became a COO and started running actual businesses. And so when I stumbled into Twit, my first media company, I just found it to be interesting and started taking over the business. And then once I started to see they were ad supported, I didn't like the sales process. To me, it was too salesy. Nobody was paying attention to our audience. I think 50% of our audience made a purchase based on an ad they heard on our network. And I just said, this is not the process we need to have. So I took it over, made a lot of mistakes over the first couple of years. I'm not going to say I was perfect at figuring this out. I mean, I took all the tools I could learn from all the agencies we worked with. And then I pretty much started to fine tune our process that we have now. And honestly, it has evolved over this decade because, as you know, the landscape has changed dramatically.
Yes.
And so has podcast sales. It's not exactly in the direction I would love to have seen it go. So we tried to do our best to stay on to the host read track, because nowadays there's dynamic ad insertion. People are looking at podcasting and wanting to get radio CPMs, which is a little sad. And honestly, for the last 3 or 4 years, agencies were all touting how producer read ads worked as well as host read ads. And they're now coming out with the data saying that they don't. They actually fall
just joking.
far short. So yeah, I've been around. I've seen everything. It's still changing. I feel like the landscape is changing faster. So we're doing our best to keep up and making some modifications on our end. But I'm here to hopefully help other people if they're interested in this space and they have a podcast network or a podcast just show themselves. Then I'm more than happy to give you as much information as I can. I'd be curious as to know what you guys want to know about it.
Yeah.
Perfect. I have one just I want to make, we have some people on the show who are absolute muggles like Andy. I'm joking, Andy.
Hey now.
I'm teasing Andy. So could you explain to folks what a CPM is, just so they don't get lost? I put cost per milli in the chat, but I just want to make sure that they have a full understanding what that means.
Oh, sure. So most podcasts the advertising is billed based on how many downloads occur and how many impressions you're delivering on the ad reads. So typically they're sold on a CPM basis, meaning $25 for every 1,000 listeners that heard the ad. So some people have come to me and they're like, hey, I have 800 listeners. What should I charge for my podcast ads? And I'm like, you need to grow your listenership first, because that doesn't even equate to $20 an ad you're dropping. And then you have to pay agency fees and whatever it takes to come in. So that means you're going to charge $25 per 1,000 deliverables on the ad impression that you have. So, if your show has 50,000 downloads per episode, that's a pretty substantial amount, and you should be able to do well. It just also depends if you have advertisers that are interested in your content. So it comes down to a lot of things to attract advertisers, but that's what that means. Most people want to do it on a CPM basis. Some people try to do a flat rate, like they don't want to deal with that, but typically, CPMs are how podcasting's done.
Yeah. It's the same with emails, and that's how you get paid on YouTube too. Most people just don't realize it because they just look at the bottom line figure, but it is sort of based on cost per milli. And you are looking for things that have good CPMs. So it's funny because someone who's talking about, say, real estate or finance or something that has high ad dollars, they will make more on YouTube with less subscribers than someone who's playing video games, because no one's buying ads against, well, they are buying ads against video gamers, but they're not expensive ads. They're cheap ads. The cost per click, the user acquisition cost is normally cheaper. So oftentimes what you're talking about will control your CPM as well. If you happen to be in a high dollar field, travel, tickets to Hawaii at Disney, all the Disney people do good because Disney ads are expensive. You're gonna, what's that yellow suitcase thing? I don't use it.
Yellow suitcase thing.
Yellow.
Hold
like
on.
Away. The one that
Away bags? Yeah, that's
no.
yeah, that's the first thing I thought of.
Oh my God! When you travel, you used to buy tickets there. Expedia. There you go. Expedia ads show up on all the travel people. I don't use it. I just book direct because it's Hawaiian miles. Anyway, never mind. So when I guess one of the questions that people often, ponder is, for instance, a lot of hosts have built-in ad plays, right? Do you
Correct.
suggest people use the built-in ad plays on their hosting platforms?
That's it's an excellent question. If you're it depends on what you want to do. What we do at Twit is we do our ad reads live when we're creating the show. We find
Mhm.
that, first of all, there's a parasocial relationship between the host and the audience. So having a host read the ad read is going to extend that trust to the brand immediately, especially in our case, because we're extremely picky about who we partner with. If they don't have
Yeah.
products or services that do not benefit our audience, we won't even look at them. And then they have to pass the test of, if they have a high integrity service and products, are they the best out there? So then we'll actually do that. So we like to do them live in our shows, because then you have the hosts are able to comment. Sometimes hosts use something that we're talking about, and that ends up being a stronger ad read. So we prefer it that way, but we understand with workflow, not everybody has a full studio with a technical director, etc. So dynamic ad insertion is one way to go, and that's where you can actually insert the ad reads directly into your content. If you're still reading the ads, they'll be more effective than if you have a producer reading the ads. Because think about it, if they're listening to you, Doc, they're going to want to hear you deliver the ad read, because they're already trusting you in the content they're listening to. Now, if you do a dynamic ad insertion from a producer read ad, they just don't know who that person is. So maybe it's a brand you trust and would recommend, but not hearing it from you, I'm not saying it won't be effective. It's just not as effective as if it's hearing from you. So what dynamic ad insertion will allow you to do is, it allows you to hit your deliverables and then remove the ad, and then you can maybe sell that somewhere else. So that is one thing that people will do with dynamic ad insertion that makes it a little bit more profitable for them. I would still recommend you do the ad reads if you can. When you embed them like we do, if we have an episode that takes off, then that brand just got 3 times more ad impressions than they paid for. So that's the danger of doing it the way we do it, but we just find
Yeah.
it works better for our network. So that's the difference between the two. I think they're both highly effective. The only thing you're losing with inserting the ad read is potentially that organic conversation with the other hosts on the network who might have something to say about the brand that was,
Yes.
being advertised in the show.
And what's funny is now that you mention it, because of I use an app called Snipped, which is my favorite podcast app right now, because
nice.
it's an AI podcast app, and what it does is it basically translates the sections and gives you a summary. So sometimes they'll bring on a founder or a CEO. Sorry, not picking on you, and the person will just start waxing rhapsodically about something that has nothing to do with the point of the conversation, right? Especially tech CEOs, they would disappear quickly. So what you want to do is skip the part where he's talking about boating and just get to the parts where he's talking about the business side is what you're
Yeah.
coming for. And so Snip lets you see what's in a section. You can easily jump through it. What it also does naturally is it knows all the ads, because it's the same freaking green soup ad on every podcast. So it
Yeah.
knows the words, and it tells you to skip it. Like, it knows to jump over that. And so Andy just mentioned in the chat
Yeah.
that when you hear your podcaster reading the line, you're less likely to automatically think commercial and skip. So you'll probably listen straight through. And that
Yeah.
even works for these AI podcast listeners like Air and Snipped and other things out there too. So we gotta say, I love the reads coming from Leo. Like, they're just, well, I guess because he's my friend is one thing, but they're just so genuine, and it just has a different vibe. And I think that's why people trust him, is because he's been, talking about things for a long time. And then when a service changes or somebody buys a company out, if he doesn't like the new company, hey, he ain't reading it. It's just so that his heart is in the right spot.
And another thing I want to add on to that I hope will help other podcasters out there that are considering this is, number one is, when you do the ad reads live, Leo doesn't read off of the script. We're very clear with our partners that we sign on our network. We say, listen, you're going to send over talking points. That's all. we want from you. And the call to action will be read verbatim. Otherwise, what we want to do is let Leo go off the reservation, bring in his own personal expertise. If he can't bring in a personal expertise, we ask for case studies so Leo can be like, oh my gosh, I love this company. This is how they use their product. So there's that implied endorsement that goes with our ad reads. But the best thing we ever did was just tell people, give us talking points. He goes off the reservation all the time. You want him to. This is the magic of what he can bring. And he's been covering tech for 40 years. So he's always going to pull in from some other example to bring it. That's another reason we don't do the dynamic ad insertion. Every ad read is fresh with every show we do. We don't just record something and run it through. We even have sponsors that come to me and they're like, we're not going to probably update the ad copy every week. Is that going to be a problem? No, because Leo's not going to do the same ad read every week. He's going to pull from different elements of what's there. I mean, Micah does this as well. Pretty much all the hosts on our network do this. And that's something you just can't fake. And if you dynamically insert something, then you're missing, oh, maybe they were talking about something that was relevant to this sponsor, and you're missing that. So we believe in what we do, but I have to be perfectly honest with you. Dynamic ad insertion is where podcasting's going. So frankly, that's where everyone's going because A, it's easier for them. B, a lot of people are outsourcing their selling now. So, it might be something that if someone's new to podcasting, they don't want to focus on that. They're not big enough to focus on it. So they may just want to partner with somebody like we have AdvertiseCast for our residual audio inventory. So we do let them, put in dynamic ad insertion into, our audio feeds when we have unsold stuff. So it's helpful for people to do that. So it's a balance. My thing is you can charge more if you do a deal with somebody and you have the ability to do that. But if you don't, I'll be honest with you, dynamic ad insertion is a great way to go if you don't have the energy to do both things, because it does take time to secure partnerships with brands and to really, do it right and to bring in who you want to bring. So it can go both ways. It just depends on how much time you have for that.
How hard is it to make a switch if you decide to do something like that? So we're similar to you, for example, with this show. We do our ad reads typically at the end of the episode, and say for whatever reason, I don't think we have plans to do this, but for whatever reason, we're like, okay, now we're going to do dynamic ads. How do you incorporate that without making it feel like there's like too many ads in the show, because you already have the ones that are just being naturally read as you're talking and working through the show itself?
I would be very selective on how many ads you put in. I think some of the mistakes people are making is it's starting to turn out to be like radio, where you have 52 minutes of radio and 18 of them are commercials. Sadly, podcasting's going down that same track. I have been doing my best to fight it, but that's where it's going. We have like on our biggest show, This Week in Tech, which is almost 2.5 hours long on an episode, there's 5 advertising positions we allow on that show, each like a minute to 2 minutes long. So the number of ads in our shows is beyond low. So if you're going to do this and you're going to add dynamic ad insertion, just be aware of how many ads you're putting into the content of your show. If you have an hour of content, I would recommend, if you're doing 30s, maybe have like 8 30s, no more than 12. That's not too bad. That's only a few minutes of ads inside the content of your shows. But I do listen to some podcast networks that are putting in like 30 ads in an hour now.
Wow.
Because honestly, that's what they have to do to make it. And what Doc said is then they become very skippable. Then you're just skipping. So they're also less effective. So it's really finding and striking that balance. We had to do it. So we're host read. And then at the end of last year, we're like, we have some unsold inventory. So we decided we're going to start running our audio feeds through AdvertiseCast. And that took a couple months to set up. Then it takes them about a month to get going. So if you decide you want to do something like that, just be really careful, make sure it's a really good balance, and then add it. I'm actually looking to do more with them. We have some club only shows that are only for our clubbers. And we have fans that are like, I can't afford your club. So I thought, maybe I should take out the audio of our club shows and put that out to the public. And the only way I can do that is to run it through dynamic ad insertion to make it ad supported, because you can come to our club and get it ad free and you pay a price. But then this allows me to put it out to everyone else to hear it that maybe can't afford to be in the club. I really kind of didn't want to have to do a club, but we also had to find a balance to keep our content going between advertisers and being fan supported. So that's a shift we had to make this year. And something I would recommend to other people, try to be fan supported as long as you can. And then if you want to do a balance, maybe add advertisers. But it really is going to come down to how much time you have to spend on it. So if you can outsource it, I'd almost recommend it. And a lot of these places will allow you to record ads that they can insert for you. So at least your voice can be on it. So there's a way to do it. And it takes generally a couple of months to set it up. You have to point your feeds to it. And then they have to get in their system and start, of course, pitching you out to their clients to get the ads going. So it can take a couple of months to get set up.
And Club Twit is only $7 a month, and you should absolutely join because there's lots of cool stuff that happens behind the paywall. So I'm just saying that is an ad read from Doc.
Thank you, Doc. And you're not wrong. I mean, we have 13 shows for $7 a month, Discord, extra stuff. I mean, it's great, really, but also at the same time, I get it. You know, I was a single mom once, so I don't want to pretend like $7 isn't a lot if you can't afford it. So, you know, that's why we want to do this balance. If you can hear us, you know, you can listen to the ad supported side. So. I don't know. I just try to find. I want to have something for everyone if I can.
Yeah,
that's about 15 minutes worth of work as a mechanical Turk. Just go do it. Anyway, Rich has a question. Rich said, "I tried from the advertiser side of things to place ad of our legal software to podcasts related to law, but Spotify doesn't get that granular. How do you get granular?" And before you answer that question, I'm gonna say, hey, Rich, you know, Spotify is not the biggest in the game. Everybody thinks they are, but Apple smokes them. They're still the best in the game. So by a long shot, not even by a little bit, by over 60 some odd %. So don't let Spotify fake you into believing they're the hugest, you know, dog on the block. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Well, it's a great question. Number one is I would look for legal podcasts and then reach out to the ones you like that are highly rated and say, hey, we want to get your software on those platforms. Another thing, because we don't get that granular either. And that I think is one of the biggest mistakes advertisers are making is that they're really focused on, oh, I only want to be on Security Now and place my security software on Security Now because that's the only show that can work for me. And that's untrue. You know, This Week in Space will work well for security professionals. 90% are ITDMs on that show. So sometimes you have to, it's not always the exact content being covered where you want to be. Sometimes it's where are people listening to that show and where they want to be. So the biggest mistakes I feel that advertisers are doing is they're looking at one thing, the content of the show instead of who's listening to the content of the show. And another thing advertisers are making a huge mistake on is they're only tracking one piece of data point on podcasts. Like with our network, you know, our audience is not going to go to a landing page. Who cares about a landing page? They're going to Google it and go straight to the show. Am I wrong, Doc? Doc, you should be nodding, at least agreeing with me on this.
100%.
So the reality is, so people are like, oh, I didn't get anyone that went to a landing page. It's like, well, of course not going to go to the landing page. Why are they going to type in extension twit when they could just in their phone say, hey, Google, you know, go to LegalZoom or whatever the particular brand is. So that's a big mistake that advertisers are doing is that they're only trying to find what they think the show is that they should be on, when in fact they should be looking, if you have a legal software, you should be looking at business podcasts, maybe even like political podcasts, even tech podcasts like ours. We reach, you know, quite a few people in the legal space, but that is how I would start on that. And frankly, that's one of our problems is we're really tired of these people trying to invade our, you know, our audience's privacy at such a level that's just beyond invasive. It's like pretty soon they're gonna know your blood type. You know, they can already find everything about you anyways. I mean, we all carry cell phones. So that would be my advice on the, you know, the legal stuff is just look at the hottest legal podcasts and reach out and try to do a direct deal.
Yeah, I like that idea better too, because you can sort of build a relationship with the folks, and you know, you layered something that was so poignant, and I don't want people to miss this, but the people that come to camp or that have watched enough, you know, Q&A streams with Ken and Glenn will know those guys are hardcore space nuts. Right.
Yeah.
So you would miss them if you're trying to get to a founder, a CEO, or developer podcast in order to get them to buy something.
Ours wouldn't be our particular developers would not be listening to any of that. They're totally watching
that, but
live streams of space shuttles going on.
Caleb, Ken, and Glenn and I have stopped dinner to watch a launch. In the middle of dinner, we're waiting for our steak and we're watching the launch take off because those two are hardcore space camp nuts. So I love that. That was very brilliant, Lisa.
That goes back though to like, it's really important. We've talked a lot on the show over the last year and a half about just really like the starting point for all of this. And it sounds like including advertising is really, really understanding the audience that you want to reach and the audience that you have. So whether you're, whatever side of the coin you're on, that really is the most important part. The rest of it is probably for the most part learnable, negotiable, and in all of those able sides of it. But yeah,
the first
I feel like
thing
that's been a learning thing for me.
Because honestly, 65% of our business is direct. I prefer direct business. We don't want clients, we want partners. And the reason why we have so much direct business is like we take the time to understand a potential partner's growth goals. What are you trying to achieve? Who do you want to reach? What's going on? I don't even send out metrics or show numbers or anything. To me, it's a guide. We want to have a conversation. If they don't have the products and services that will benefit my audience, it's a full pass for us. So one thing we've always done is no one wins. And here's the beauty. I mean, we do a survey every January. That's how we get our audience metrics. Cause like I said, we don't invade our audience's privacy. We get close to 10,000 responses. We just closed it. We're parsing it now. And in the decade that I've been here, 50% of our audience used to make a purchase based on an ad they heard on our network. Today, it was 85 last year. Today, it's now 88%.
Congratulations.
It's not 88% because we don't know what we're doing. It's 88% because we don't just put anybody on our network at all. And honestly, it keeps going up with direct business because no offense, agencies, love you agencies. I work with a lot of you, but you don't understand our network and you'll end up going, oh, we only want to do 3 drops on this show. And I'm just like, nope, that's the wrong show. You should be here or you should do more. And the reality is they're all about volume and they don't really know anything about what they're buying on. I hate to say it. They look at metrics and that's it. And that's great for them. To me, I actually want to hear the story from a potential partner. And what are you trying to achieve? What are your growth goals? What are your dreams? And only then will we consider maybe partnering with them if we feel we can do something for them. If they're the exact same as another sponsor on our network and they have nothing else to offer, I'll turn them down. I'll be like, you know what? We already got a sponsor in this space. You don't have it. You're not better, faster, or anything. Maybe you're a little different, but we do a really good job on that. So that would be my best advice is make sure when you reach out to someone that they're just not going, how much money do you have? When do you want to start? And we'll place you on the shows that we recommend. You want someone that's going to be like, what are you up to? What are you trying to accomplish? What have you done in the past? Where are you going? I mean, to me, that's the process. It's about being a guide to help brands get their name out there. And it's our job to provide this amazing introduction to a brand. That's what I look at when I go out there. So I would highly recommend, honestly, doing the vetting yourself. It's better than talking to a Spotify or an iHeart, who, by the way, we've used them. I had my own agency for 7 years. They don't know their networks like networks know their networks. So I always recommend going direct anytime you can.
Yeah, I think it's a really good. That's a really good point for sure.
I think it's funny because primary example. What you just said is so meaningful, and I just want to make sure people don't miss this. This is how you end up with like penne and vodka sauce or Caesar salad at an Italian restaurant.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, those things do not exist. That is an American generation, but because your advertisement is trying to reach everyone, you end up with people coming in your restaurant, and after enough people ask for it or ask for Italian dressing on their salad, there's no such freaking thing, then you have to capitulate to what the masses is asking for. But if you told your advertiser, I want people looking for a real deal Italian meal, I want people that understand they will hear fighting from the kitchen. The family will curse each other out in the middle of the dance floor, but the food will be amazing. The place we went to in Denver, that was legit. They had the mafia movies on. They had, Botticelli playing in the back. Like when you walk into one of those spots, it's legit. If they have a straw on the wine bottles, real deal. right?
Yep.
If they have Caesar salad, walk the F out. It is not a true Italian restaurant. And so this is why you have to be careful. Everybody wants 1 million listeners. No, you want 150,000 true blue listeners. It is a much better play for longevity and living how you live. Right. And I think that's what you
Exactly.
guys have done so good. The Twit family is real. Like those people, many of us have been listening for well over a decade. I've been there 18 years. So trust me, I know, and I hope people do not miss that, because you're going to get someone that comes to your show, or this is the problem right now with YouTube quitters.
Right.
Is they started taking on all these ads from all these people, and then they start telling them to make content that they need in order to make this money, and not what they want. And now they're over it, and they all say they want to quit. At the end of the video, you find out they're really just coming back to just doing what they really wanted to do, was create videos for fun and enjoyment and a little profit, instead of trying to be billionaires. And that's the mistake. So be very careful.
Yeah, that's where we're at. We're going to be making some more changes this year. Some pretty significant changes. I'm working on that right now. And so hopefully by summer, you'll be hearing more about it. But that's definitely how we are. We just don't want to throw anybody on our network. We really want partners. I have long-term relationships with direct clients, because we do what we say we're going to do. You know, we talk with them, we see if we're helping them meet their goals. We're only bringing them on our network because our audience wants to hear about these guys. And if they don't, then we don't want them. So, you know, I honestly still say no. You would think in this climate, I'd be saying yes to everything. But if I say yes to everything, there goes my audience. So for us, really, our content is focused on our audience, and we're going to get more back to that. So my tease to everyone that is a Twit fan is there's some real stuff that's going to happen by this summer. And it's all because of our massive focus on, we want to do content for our fans. I don't really care about brands. And that's why people are quitting YouTube, because they had to pivot to do things for brands. I've had so many brands reach out to me. They want to do sponsored content, this, that, and this. And Leo had a hard line on that. He said no. And I'm like, what if it's a different division? He's like, I don't want to, that's not what we want to do. We want to cater to a specific audience. These are the people we want to hang out with, you know, on our network. And that's where we, you know, stay true to what we're doing. But that's why a lot of people are leaving the business, is they've been forced to do things that's not why they're there. They want to be creatives in what they do. And they turned around and became shills for advertisers. And now they're like, I mean, they might also be burnt out, but I really, truly believe they're not doing what their heart is, where their heart is. And that's what happens.
One of your people just showed up. Hello, Twit Tech Podcast Network.
Hello.
I'm trying to figure out who's hiding behind the badge now.
I think that would be Ty, our marketing director. So I saw the Go Lisa Go, so I'm going to guess Ty. I sent him this to promote out to our folks. So I don't know. It could be a fan too.
So listen, here I have one thing that I really want to ask, and I want to make sure that we cover. And I know this might be difficult for you, but you're Lisa, so I'm going to just throw it out there.
Bring it.
For, you know, a lot of the guys that we have are starting, and they're relatively small, so they're not at that level yet. But it's the thing that you should study while you don't need to. Same thing I tell them: create when you don't need to create. Don't wait until you have to, and then you got last minute running around. So, like, when is the right time, and how does a small person make the switch?
Yeah, right? When to get started with advertising? Yeah.
Honestly, I would just do it now. I mean, if you're streaming on YouTube, turn on the ads on YouTube. I would recommend making them skippable so you don't really annoy your audience to death, but just put them on YouTube. Why not turn on all the ads, make them skippable, turn around and, you know, reach out to partners that do dynamic ad insertion. A lot of agencies do it. So you can say, hey, I'm going to send you my audio feeds. They can start putting in ads, and you have control over categories. You can say no politics, no religion, no that, like, you know, you can make it sure it's around what you would want them to be putting in. And you could start right now doing that. They might have minimums, but at least get your word out there. And frankly, if, you know, let's say you have a business, maybe hit them up. Hey, why don't you sponsor my first few episodes? I mean, there's other ways to get people to come in. You could even do flat out branding deals. I know that's what we did at Twit when we first started. You know, some guy reached out and they're like, hey, we want to send you a couple of our products in $5,000. Would you do an ad? And we're like, sure. You know, I mean, so honestly, play with it. Don't be afraid to try things. Be careful about overwhelming your audience with too many ads. That's why I'm saying if you're going to turn on YouTube, make it skippable. If you're going to find someone to do dynamic ad insertion, be respectful of your audience's time. Try to pick brands that work. And if someone reaches out and goes, hey, I want to sponsor you, maybe make it a flat rate sponsorship at first. Maybe it's a couple $100, you know? I mean, anything to help you buy your mics, get your lighting rig set up, because everyone knows they need video now to go with the audio. So those are just some easy ways to do it. And if you think your podcast is decent, maybe you want to join a network, reach out. There's a lot of smaller networks that'll take on brands or take on podcasts and say, yeah, we'll put you in our workflow. We'll help you with the back end of this. So to me, my thing is, don't be afraid to try, test. I'll be honest with you. I've been running companies my whole career. I leap a lot of the times with 2% of the information and figure it out on the way down, because you have to. You know, this is how you generate and get new ideas out there. So for me, be honest with your audience. Tell them, I'm going to test some stuff. I'm going to turn this on. Trust me, if they don't like it, you're going to hear from your fans. So I feel being authentic, honest with your fans, tell them what you're going to test and try YouTube ads, try dynamic ad insertion with, you know, platforms that'll do it. Be willing to try and be open and honest with your audience when you do it. That, I think, is the key. Keep growing your audience and be honest with them.
You know, and I'm forever telling my guys to just leap and you'll just figure it out. Like, don't be scared. Being scared is useless, bro. It really doesn't do anything. I've never seen anybody be successfully scared. I just do stuff and then figure it out. You know, when I started, one of the things I did was I went to my attorney, who was asking me about buying Facebook ads and buying Instagram ads, or actually wasn't even Instagram at the time. I think it was Foursquare or something. And I was like, hey, I got an idea for you. Like, you're going to spend our money on this. We know that all of the local people are listening to my show, and a lot of my guys that go to my club listen to my show. And he says, okay, so I was like, well, I need a new microphone and I want to pay for my podcast hosting. So I added it up. I was like, it comes out to like $750. Will you sponsor the first season? He goes, how many episodes in the season? I'm like, I don't know, 20. But he's like, okay. So he basically covered my mic and my hosting costs. I bought it and I did a show for his, helping people, you know, get out of DUIs. Because he was the best DUI lawyer. And I didn't get one, but he was also just regular lawyer. My brother-in-law is a cop. I can't get one. Anyway.
You'd never hear the end of that if you did.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, my God. That's what I always tell when I get pulled over. It's like, have you been drinking? I was like, you
and
high?
We're too old. We're just way too old,
like,
Doc, to be getting
my brother-in-law is a sergeant. He's probably your boss. If I get in trouble, he would murder me. Anyway, but it's funny that he went for it. He was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And a lot of people would tell him that, you know, they heard about him on my show. And, you know, when we would do outside events, sometimes I would, you know, do it live from one of the bars. So you guys that are doing sports shows or memorabilia shows or whatever, if there's going to be, say, a card trading thing happening in your neighborhood, ask them, can you do one of the shows live from the show floor? And so we would do stuff like that. We would do our events. Katie and I did it at the pool deck last week, you know, and you'd be surprised. Like, people are like and dying to be engaged. And so that's a way, even as a small podcaster, you can go out into the community and, like you said, talk to a restaurant or a small business cleaning company or something, and you're helping them out. And it's a couple $100 to them, but that covers. You guys are always complaining about, I don't want to buy a $400 mic. Hello, that's a $400 for podcast ad is nothing. They're going to spend that on that. Every neighborhood has that cheap paper that mostly gets used for wrapping stuff. Ours used to be called the penny saver. Ad costs more than that in that, right? The little ad of the realtor doing this is like $1,800 a week. So,
and you touched on a point. It's gotten to the point now where podcasting is so easy to do anywhere. You can shoot it on your phone. Mike, here's my other tip for everyone. Audio's king. I don't care how it looks. I know that video is really coming out to be more and more what people want, but if the audio isn't there,
you got to start with the audio. Yep.
Audio's got to be king. But you're right. Now you can go anywhere and do this. So you can even do a shout out to your fans and say, I'm going to go to this restaurant. Maybe the restaurant covers like, you know, it gives you $150 and then people are there buying stuff, like you said, coming and actually enjoying and watching it live. There's so many things now you can do that you couldn't have done 15 years ago. Like right now, we don't even need a studio. That's something, you know, we are working on. We're looking at putting our shows up into the cloud because we kind of mastered that during the pandemic. And so it's like,
Yeah.
I'd rather do more content than pay for, a really expensive studio. So we're looking at doing some things like that. But in today's day and age, you're absolutely right, Doc. You can walk into a local place and shoot and do the whole thing on your phone and then put it out later. So there's so many opportunities to get out there and actually make your podcast work. I agree with you. Don't stop with fear. You miss every shot you don't take. I mean, come on, we all know this one. So my attitude is just try it. Turn on the camera but be honest. If you're doing a show and you're like, oh, I want to try this, instead of being fearful about it, tell your audience about it.
Just talk it through. Yeah.
Every time I'm going to make some huge change, I'm like, Leo, you best be talking about this on all your shows, because I don't want to hear it from the fans in 2 months that they didn't know this was coming. So we just treat our audience with respect. We let them know what's up. We put it out there, whatever we're going to test and try, and we hope things work. And sometimes they don't. So we shift, and that's all you can do is go out there and be authentic and be human. And frankly, audiences embrace that more than hiding things or surprising them. Just put it all out there.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised. Like Murray's in our audience right now, and Murray has a podcast where he talks about guitars and stuff. I mean, brilliantly, you just do it at the guitar store. They'll be happy to have you. And people will come by and see you, and it's like, hey, this is cool. Like, I can stand here and learn about this thing, and it becomes like a gathering spot. You can plan, hey, you guys want to do a musician swap meet in the parking lot, and I'm going to record the podcast from outside today. And, all the musicians, we all have a bunch of extra gear that's been sitting around. And I know our music store does musician swap meet every once in a while. So you help them plan that event and you record your podcast there. And if you're brave enough, you let some of the weirdos come and talk on your show. Trust me.
But the reality is it's popping up everywhere.
Brings the crazy people.
Yeah. Podcasting's popping up everywhere, Doc. I mean, it's in communities. There's local podcasts. Like, I have so many friends that are like, hey, I've got a business and we want to do a podcast about the food we're doing. I mean, like Kapu just opened up downtown. We have a Hawaiian club now. I'm loving it. And the owner is doing drinks on podcasts and on social media to drum up business. So the reality is podcasting is everywhere that you want it to be. And there's ways to build your brand and, get sponsorship, and you could do it within your own community and just encourage people to show up, like you said, at, a music store doing your podcast. Why not? So it's just, to me, I think it's just become a really flexible medium that's going to continue to evolve. And you're going to see things like our network, which is tech, and you're going to see little mom and pop podcasts popping up, because guess what? It's helping them grow their own business. So, there's all kinds of ideas.
I think the strongest drink at that place should be called The Next Episode, and you do your podcast over there, because after you drink it, then you can have an episode.
Yeah, that's absolutely
fantastic. A great idea. I'll have to give them that recommendation. They make really good Mai Tais there. That's still probably my favorite drink that they make.
I love that they call it Kapu. Kapu basically means like don't go there. So before you would see an area with two crisscross paddles, and like this area is Kapu, and it's like don't go in there because spirits or something bad's going to happen. So I love the fact that
they're just embracing it. Yeah.
Oh, I love the fact they named it. I looked that up too, and I was kind of surprised they named it that. But it's like, oh, even more enticing. Let's go where you're not supposed
Let's
to
go inside. Right? Exactly. It's like a speakeasy. It's super cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I think this has been very enlightening for people because I do believe that so many people just want to get in, and I know the hard part, and this is challenging. This came up at Podfest last week. If you're really doing this just because you want to make money, you'll probably hate it.
It's just the wrong thing for you.
If you're doing it because you want to, you'll probably do good. And as you do good, what's going to happen is you will actually make money. So you need to know how to do it. And don't be afraid to start early. Like I always tell everybody, put on a donation type situation.
Yes.
Start with the Patreon. Fan supported instead. Yeah. As you were saying, like, before you go down the path for ads, you could certainly start seeing if it's worthwhile building out some kind of membership or or offer behind the scenes content or something that's a value add for people that want to join, like a club.
And frankly, you can Google this and see it, where people tell you there's YouTube, there's Patreon. We have Memberful because we're a network and we publish on more than one place. Patreon's really for individuals, but really people should do the homework and take a look around. They can be fan supported all you want. I try not to say donations because we're not a nonprofit, and I
Yeah.
you get away from donations. I mean, if you're a nonprofit, you can say that, but I
Yeah.
tend to say fan support, you know, contribute to us. We still have a tip jar. It's like, hey, join the club. Some people are like, I don't want to join the club, but I don't want to buy anything. I'm like, well, we have a tip jar if you want to, you know, tip us over here. So we have all kinds of ways to support us. And I just really think if people want to try something, they just need to try it. Just try it. Try something and tell your audience what you're trying so they know. But I agree, Doc and Katie, if you're going into podcasting to make money, it's going to be a grind for you. You're going to be unhappy. You need to be there because you have a voice and something you want to tell people. I mean, if people are really curious as to how we do things, I started my own podcast called Host Red Ads. I mean, I apologize. The production ability is not quite as high as it should be because I've been doing it, but you can find it on our network at twit.tv. They're really short. I think my longest
we have the
one's
link in the description.
minutes.
So definitely check it out here.
It gives people an idea of like, you know, how we do things. So if you think you're curious, go listen to a few of them. I mean, shoot me an email, Lisa@twit.tv. I try to help people because to me, I didn't get here because I am amazing and just figured it out. I got here because of other people helping me get here. I have mentors. I'm not afraid to reach out to people. I'm not afraid to ask questions. So, you know, email me. If I can help you, I will. I mean, I even help my brands. Some brands reach out to me and they're like, I have $5,000 to spend. I go, well, it won't be on our network. Here's where I recommend you go. And they can't believe it. They're like, why would you even be helping me to go somewhere else? I'm like, well, if I can't do it and I have an idea, I want to help everyone. You know, that's just
because they'll come back when they can. They'll remember that moment.
That was exactly what we were thinking.
Well, if not, pay it forward because then, you know, maybe they have an idea that can help someone. So to me, I just feel like this is a community and, you know, I didn't get here today because I was greedy and, you know, knew what I was doing. People help me. So to me, I just will always give it back. I will help anyone and everyone at any time if I can.
She's not lying. She was absolutely incredible in answering all of our questions about advertising. So it was hugely helpful.
Yeah. I just, you know, this universe is small. And as far as I'm concerned, I think too many people are looking out only for themselves these days. So if I can tell anyone anything, help people if you can, pay it forward. If you have an idea, let someone else, you know, run with it. It's just, you know, life's too short not to be hanging on to everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And guys, if you haven't done so already, I put the link in. Check out Club Twit. Check out their shows. You're talking about some of the best shows in the business. If you're even looking for what does a true video podcast look like, and trust me, I love when we go to shows and people talk about how video podcasting is new, and I'm like, nah, player.
Doc's like
no. No. Like I remember when I specifically bought Apple TV version 1 back in 2008 or 9 because I wanted to watch Twit and like Revision 3 and all of the, you know, video podcasts back in the day. And that's when I started making my own, like way back then. So it's been a hot minute, but you're talking security now. MacBreak Weekly which has been my soul for many, many years. iOS Today, Hands on Mac was Micah's my G, love Micah to death. You know, just go and check these out, even if you haven't, for the simple reason that you'll see what like a pro show looks like, and you'll pick up tips, you'll pick up things. Even, trust me, dude is one of the best hosts in the business, all the way back from like what is that show called? 321 Contact or something? I forgot what it was called. But you see Leo presenting how. That's where you get your chops. That's where you learn how it's done. You know, both of us had come from radio, but I learned about switching from radio style to podcast style from just watching and emulating Leo and, you know, some of the other great hosts on the network. So go check it out. Tell them I sent you. They'll probably kick you out.
Oh no, check us out. And we also have our ads, you know, we have our ad supported side too. So I mean, just go and download a couple of, you know, episodes, see if there's something there that you're interested in, and, you know, become a fan. I mean, I'm a huge tech fan after joining this network. I was always a nerd, and now it's like, okay, I had to switch. I had to become a little bit more of a geek now. So, but I love it.
Well, is it caters to us hardcore nerd people, but it's done so in a manner that anybody can understand. And I think that's what has made it such a large
resonates
position in people's life. You don't have to be as nerdy as I to say, listen, you can listen to it. And I would highly suggest that some of you guys listen to the Security Now show.
Yes. It
because
brings
it's
out all the big problems happening in tech and security. Nobody analyzes that better than Steve.
yes.
I mean, I know that Global 100 companies listen to this show because I hear from them. Yeah. I'm just like,
Yeah.
whoa, you're reaching out to me, this little tiny thing. That's one of our most popular shows with some high-end people.
Hey, I just
awesome.
remember like when I first came and I was like, I know you guys think this is cool, but we cannot have the same password for all of our things in the Ecamm space. If somebody figures it out, we are done. And it, it's easy to do, but you just don't think about it because it hasn't happened yet. But when it happens, oh my God, is it a mess? And so now we're all cool. We got everything in position. And even for you guys just starting out, start fixing that right now. If you still do that, stop it. And just, this is the things that you can learn. So I really appreciate you guys being around for as long as you have. I think you've helped me stay in the business. The business gets crazy from time to time, and when you need to
Don't we know it?
When you need your people to help you calm down, I know that I can hang out with my Twit folks and come back to reality real quick. And then now I'm gonna be watching Twit on my Apple Vision Pro.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's changing a lot. I'm always paying attention, and like I said, we're going to pivot some more this year. So all of our fans, I hope you're going to like what we're going to do. I think they're going to love it. So I wish I could talk about it now, but I have to hit goals. So once we hit those goals,
we'll have you back, and then you can dive in. It'll be great.
Yeah, you can show like, look, guys, we got a new grand opening. Grand closing. This has been super amazing. How can everyone find you? I know you said it before, but I just want to make sure that they hear it again. How can people find Lisa?
Well, if you need to, want to reach out to me directly, I'm Lisa at twit.tv. I'm on LinkedIn, X. Those are my two go-to platforms for business. And you can just come to twit.tv and look around. There's lots of great content there, and maybe you can find something you'll enjoy.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Tell Leo, you know what I made for dinner yesterday? Leftover chicken in the rice pot.
Oh my God, we use that rice pot every week, just so you know. I did a bunch of sausages last weekend, so I was putting in chorizo and some hot Italian sausage in there. Oh, it was so good. Thank you, Doc, for that tip.
I love by rice cookers and the chicken recipe.
Yes, rice cookers are.
Man, I'm waiting for the Zojanushi sponsorship on Twitter. I'll feel very like I did it. I bridged the gap between my two favorite things.
Well, if you know anybody, do an intro. I think we can make them happy. I know we like to eat.
All right, gang. Funny. I want to remind you that this show is easy to find. We're at flow.ecamm.com. If you need anything, step onto the site. It's a good way to get to all of your podcast aggregators. It's a good way to contact us. We have links on the site that would allow you to leave a voicemail, leave feedback. And Katie built it. And it's beautiful. And every time I look at it, I'm like,
use it. It's so great.
It's so great, right? And I just think it's cool that she just took the leap and did it. And guys, I'm always telling you, just take the leap. And I'm glad that Lisa said, take the leap and figure it out on the way down. Well,
that's my new favorite quote. Totally sold.
That is 100% how I live my life. You know what it is. So check out flow.ecamm.com. Now, we got to give mad love to our host, which is Captivate. Oh my God, Captivate makes podcast hosting so simple. Anybody can do it. And my favorite thing about Captivate is they are giving you the tools to help you grow your podcast. Their growth platform. So you're not just hosting, you're learning how to make your podcast big enough that you can call Lisa and say, hey, I need to sign up this deal for one of these uncomfortable mattresses. I'm joking. Anyway, check out Captivate. You can get it right there. And wait, who else are we gonna do? That's it. That's it.
That's it for this week. I have so many pod page updates to do. I'm excited.
What did you say, Katie? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, based on last week's episode where we talked with Brendan and Dave about Podpage, I'm like, I have my checklist now. Every one of these episodes, I'm like, well, I've learned all of this, and now I've got to implement. it. So I'll have to make my Lisa checklist for next week.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's gonna be fun. Like, Katie, you can totally write this book now about your first, couple years in podcasting and all the things you learned, because basically got dragged in kicking and screaming, and then you're just a consummate pro now.
I don't know if I was kicking and screaming. I was like, oh, one more thing. Do we want to do one more thing?
No, it's maybe a little outside your comfort level, but you've done it now, and it's great. Try everything. Life's too short.
Exactly. It is really, really fun, and I've learned a ton. So yeah, absolutely.
You see, guys, you never know. You never know until you try it. That's why I eat fermented soybeans, because you first smell it, it smells like feet, but it's really healthy and it doesn't taste bad. All right,
that's a good thing. I don't know if I'd eat it.
No, it's really good. You'll like it. I know you would like it. If you can eat Parmesan cheese, you can eat natto. All right, gang. That is it. Here it is. We like to wrap this baby up with our ever impressive statement, and it is Flow Riders out.